Okay, my dudes. On this edition of Go Go KO, we're going to be looking at the Pocket Toys PT-05 Ruiner B Bruticus. This is the knockoff of, I believe, the Iron Factory Bruticus. That's much smaller. This is only the second KO I ever bought. Not the second I'm reviewing, but what the hey. And I was initially very skeptical of KO toys. The first one I bought was very disappointing. I'll go over that in a different video. But I thought I'd give it a try, and the reason for that is I'm a huge fan of combiners. They hold a huge nostalgic place in my brain. Had the 1984, well, I guess 85 versions of Bruticus, Superion, and Devastator. The truth is that the original combiners were pretty limited. Their proportions were weird. They weren't particularly well jointed. And, you know, that was a long time ago. And then Combiner Wars didn't come out for a long time. And I think Hasbro even announced that they could do the combiners pretty well. Onslaught here, for example, was released, you know, as a standalone character in the 2000. Yeah, as you can see, I did no research for this, but he was released and he wasn't a combiner, so I figured I'd never see combiners. And then Combiner Wars came out, and as I'll discuss in other videos, you know, Combiner Wars was not a thing I thought was all that cool, with the exception of Devastator. That was even that was outside my price range when it first came out. I really did think that I would simply let the combiners pass me by. Then I saw Warbitron. The Warbitron Bruticus looked amazing in ways that the Combiner Wars Bruticus did not. And it was so outside my price range. And then I saw other versions of it coming out. I saw the Iron Factory. I saw a bunch of others. And then I saw this Pocket Toys, and it was like on eBay for like $60. And I thought, okay, you know, $60 for 5 characters. That's $12 a character. I figured it was kind of worth it, even if the plastic on those guys sucked. So I bought it, and it turns out the plastic on these guys is like buttery smooth, really nice quality, and I really can't say enough about them. So here is my full set. It comes with 5 vehicles and a lot of parts forming. Here are all of the parts. This is mostly Onslaught's trailer. That's sort of how they get around Onslaught having all of this kibble. It's not stuck onto him, but rather it becomes a trailer, with one exception. There's a piece inside it that is part of Swindle. When I do Swindle's video, you'll see how that all is. And when I do the totem video, I call this the totem. It doesn't do anything. It's just Bruticus's torso basically on the feet to be a pedestal. So like, what is it? I don't know. I feel like it's the Combaticons worship Bruticus when they're not Bruticus, I guess. It's their totem, I guess. I don't know what else it is. So there it is. It also comes with Onslaught, Swindle, Brawl, Vortex, and of course Blast Off. And they're really good. Also, each one comes with at least 1 weapon. I've taken off all the weapons, with the exception of Vortex's, because his peg on so perfectly. In addition, there are these quasi-weapons that peg on to Blast Off, and they become filler when he becomes Bruticus's arm, and we'll go through that in just a second. So here, let's take off some of Vortex's guns, because the first step in transforming him is putting the gun together. So here is Onslaught's main cannon. It's quite cool looking on its own. This flips down, barrel flips up and locks into place. Good. Here comes Blast Off's cannon. Flips up, flips down. Right, so his pistol grip slides into the main body. The barrel rotates up and connects into the Onslaught's gun. Flip it down. Here is one of the remaining guns. You can give it to whoever you want. Sometimes I give it to Swindle, sometimes not. It just plugs in here with the pistol grip up. Here comes Swindle's bazooka. You fold his pistol grip in, and the whole thing pegs into the pistol grip of that little pistol we just put on. Okay, it's kind of flimsy right now, but that is the stock of the gun, basically. Brawl's little guns come in, and you'd think that the mag part here would swivel in to connect. It does not. It has a little peg here that fits into this peg. It has a little notch here that fits onto this peg, and that will stabilize the Bruticus gun. It's okay when you put in one, but you really need both, which I happen to have. So you tab those guys on, and now this thing is feeling like a serious cannon. Vortex's little railgun things come on just to make it added awesome. And finally, Vortex's front cannon pegs on to become like a scope. Now you can't tell me that doesn't look like a harsh cannon. That is pretty rocking. Okay, so that is how we put together the Bruticus gun. All right, with the gun done, it is time to make Bruticus. So the first thing to do, I think, is to prep Onslaught and the totem. We're going to start by prepping Onslaught, and to do that, we have to take the totem apart. Bring out the hands, make sure all the pieces are where they need to be. So let's bring in Onslaught. The first thing to do is to roll up his chest plate, tuck in his head, put the head away. The gun usually displays with these little slats on the backside, but now you gotta flip it down and around so it does a full 180 and it comes down here. The arms fold up and peg in. There's a little peg on the side of each one. Fold them up and slap them in. Don't worry that the hands are exposed. They won't be for long. So this is what he should look like now. We might as well, since we're here, get his legs ready. So we will flip those ratchets up like that. Make them nice and wide to accommodate what's going to be the legs of Bruticus, but also they are ratcheted in really tight, so that's good. It's going to make for a nice stable combiner. We'll bring these guys out, and if you have nails, great. And now we'll need to pull out the joints. They should just flip out. There we go. They should just flip out. Those are going to be the connectors to the leg pieces. All right, so Onslaught is prepped. So let's start here. This is the blue piece on the trailer. If it's still in trailer mode, it will look something like this. Totally cool. There are a couple things you need to do. First, we of course fold in our wheels, and then they fold up to become Bruticus' shoulder assembly, but you also have to flip out these really well ratcheted arm brackets. They will peg in to the arm pieces. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. They have two slots back here which correspond to these two pegs. They will very tightly peg on here, making the back of Bruticus, and that's, again, the plastic on these guys is really good, so it's worth looking into. It's worth doing. No, the plastic on these guys is really good. Next, we take the silver piece of the trailer. It has Bruticus' head. Make sure the antenna are up and the helmet front piece is rotated all the way up. It again has one peg, two slots, fits into the bottom slot here on Onslaught, and the two pegs will line up as well very nicely. The head fits on. Now the head is sort of balanced on. There's a lot of empty in here, but you know, it fits in nicely and that's good enough. So there's the front of Bruticus. He's looking very Bruticus-like. As you can see, I put a little clear Decepticon symbol on top of the not quite light-piped plastic, but it does look cool in purple. I like it a lot. Okay, so we can now affix the railgun to the back. Fits on very nicely. Again, it has quite a lot of that light-catching plastic. It's really beautiful. Looks really good. The cod piece fits right above Onslaught's cod piece. It has these really nice notched pieces that go right around the hinges, or the poles and the joints. And there's a peg up on top that fits right here onto Onslaught's cod piece that has a little slot in it. Perfectly nicely done. It maintains the swivel, also still feels very nice. The plastic is not brittle at all. Finally, there's these pieces that's sort of like a rocket launcher thing. It's basically just exists to hide the hands during vehicle mode, and that not well. You can peg them in down this way. It'll hamper the leg movement a little bit. Or you can peg them in up this way. It'll hamper the waist swivel somewhat. So right today, I'm in a mood to keep the legs limber, so it will restrict his range of motion when the waist swivel, but it still swivels, so that's pretty neat. Okay, that is Bruticus's torso. Let us move on to the rest of him. Leg pieces are up next. The legs come apart. This is a really good construction. Each leg has its own particulars, therefore you know which one it belongs to. If this guy tilts inwards to the left, it's the right leg. And this guy turns inward to the right, it's the left leg. So there's no way to mistake them. They're very particular, and the legs are very articulated. They've got the full ball joint, the ankle tilt. You can get a great deal of posability out of this. So you'll notice, for example, so here's Swindle. He's going to be one of the legs. So you'll notice he has these two pegs on the bottom. The right leg has slots. The left leg has pegs. Brawl has slots. So again, there's no way to mistake this. These guys go in only one direction. So I'm going to fix Brawl's cannon to make sure that the leg has optimum flexibility, because that gun isn't in the way of the knee. And we'll just peg it on. That fits on very nicely. And we have a leg of Bruticus. Cool. Swindle. We're going to put his roll bar top back on. He can finally be whole again. He is complete. We need to move a little bit the hood of the vehicle out of the way just so we can get at the leg, but we'll close that up as best we can later. And again, he just pegs in. The legs of Bruticus. Okay, now these are the knee joints, and they are very tightly ratcheted, and sometimes they're hard to move with your fingers. Don't worry about it, because when you get the added leverage of slotting in Bruticus's leg connectors, it works pretty quickly. Brawls particularly are very, very hard to move. It's just a very snug fit in there. But once you put Bruticus in, pulls it up like it wasn't even there. And now we have the legs of Bruticus. So Bruticus is coming into being. It gets a little more tricky with the arms. There's a little bit more to do with them. We'll start with Blastoff because he's the easiest. You have to take these little foe gun things. They connect here. And basically what they're making is a filler piece for the elbow, just to keep the arms intact. One of the things I really like, and I mean really like, about this design is that it doesn't require the legs to be shown. A lot of the Hasbro combiners have basically like two gaps at the joint because it's the character's legs. Well, Onslaught and Bruticus and Blast Off, well, Blast Off and Bruticus don't have that issue. You can just turn this to make the arm. Again, these are very specific arms. They only connect certain ways. Let's get the fingers out. Yeah. Display them just now. Makes a really good Bruticus hand. And they will connect in only a very particular way. They fit in, joints fit into Blast Off's rocket engines, and I'm surprised at just how good they are in terms of it. And they do have a swivel, so that's pretty nice. And as you can see, this arm does really well. It has a good degree of bend. Here's the bracket, and it's on a bit of a swivel, so Bruticus has got more range of motion, and it just attaches really, really nice. And it's pretty tight. I am surprised at just how good this really works. And as you can see, the chest piece is wide open, but we need a little bit of filler, or at least it thinks it does. This faux gun piece fits in here, and it just holds there by tension, basically, but it helps fill the gap that was opened by the joint piece, and that helps keep it from falling apart. I'm not sure you actually need it, but it does come with it, so I put it in every time. That brings us finally to Vortex. He is sort of the most complicated part of Bruticus's assembly. We have to take his front piece off. Let's pull the joint out now, because it's harder to do later on. And again, I cannot stress this enough. This is such a nice feature on these combiners. The fact that there is a separated elbow joint that has nothing to do with the character's legs or limbs or arms. That is so different from the way Hasbro treats these guys. And I think it's the most clever thing that they do, because it just makes the arm look better. And the fact that they took the time to actually do this is, I think, a really nice touch. You have to split the legs open a little bit. Take the pistol grip from his front piece, pull it down, kind of separate it from the pistol connector. I will put it in here. It has a snug little fit. If you do it right, it should be held in place. If you do it right. I'm on my second attempt. There we go. And it's a little loose, but it is secure. The hands fit in. They peg on the bottom, and the front piece of the helicopter pegs in up on the top. They fit together really nicely, and that holds it in really tightly. You get a good swivel out of the hand. And then you have this bracket right here. It fits on nice and tight. And we have achieved Bruticus. So that's pretty cool. I think he looks really good. Very G1 inspired, if not accurate. But who cares? Because it looks so good. The plastic quality on these guys is reasonably good. I mean, really reasonably good. The plastic all feels strong. It doesn't feel like it's going to break particularly much, with the possible exception of Vortex's blades. And even there, I really feel like it was my mistreatment of them early on that did that. The gun has these really wonderful wide pegs, and they will slot in and peg on. And the hand doesn't have the full number of finger joints, but it's still pretty expressive. I mean, you can get a wide range of motion out of these guys. And as an added bonus, it comes with an itsy bitsy little shockwave cannon that it can, or pistol, that it can hold in the other arm. It's also pegged in the same way. And both guns are pegged on either side, so it doesn't matter which hand you put them in. And that is a fully realized combiner. This is the full version of the Pocket Toys PT-05 Ruiner B Bruticus. B stands for Bruticus. His name is Ruiner Bruticus, I guess. So he looks fantastic, I think. He's really well articulated, and he really feels very solid and stable. He can do great poses. He is really like the best combiner I've got. I have very few complaints. He is stable and strong, and I love it. And he can do amazingly cool poses. Very impressed with this guy. So let's do a quick tech spec because I know that's what we're here for. In terms of look, he may not be G1 accurate, but he looks great. I will give him a full 9 out of 10. The transformations, he's fine. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of parts forming, but you sort of knew that from the beginning. The totem thing, I guess, is a nice touch because it is the only way they can handle him. He really is like a Constructicon, sort of 6-piece turning into 1, not 5. And the 6th piece is just that totem slash trailer. It's a bit of a cheat. So in terms of transformation, I will give him an 8 out of 10. In terms of posability, given that he's a combiner and how big he is a little unruly as a combiner. Each individual toy is pretty good. So I'm giving it a full 9 out of 10. The plastic is really good. 10 out of 10. Fantastic. Now the price, I picked him up on eBay for about 60. Again, this is a fairly old character. You know, if you consider it as 6, pieces, that's $10 a piece. I think that's pretty worth it. I will give the price a 9 out of 10. That is the full review of Pocket Toys PT-05 Ruiner B Bruticus. Thanks for watching. Hope you like this one. Tune in for the next Go Go KO. Thanks a lot.